Hello, Accelerated Math 6-7 students. We are still working in Module 4, and today we begin Lesson 6, Writing and Expanding Multiplication Expressions, found on page 71 of my comp book. Writing and Expanding Multiplication Expressions. Our goal for today we will learn how to write expressions using multiplication terms. The question that I need you to answer or think about throughout the lesson is, how many different symbols are used to show multiplication? Things to know, important vocabulary. Okay, as you can see, that's primarily what our entire lesson is. Again, so pretty easy, but very, very important. Things to know, important vocabulary. Factor. A factor is a number multiplied by another number to make a new number. An example of this, the factors of 6 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. And the way we would know this is 1 times 6 gives me 6. 2 times 3 gives me 6. So factors are the numbers that we're actually multiplying together to get a new number. That's a factor. A product is the solution or the answer when numbers are being multiplied. So the example for this one is 8. 8 is the product of 2 multiplied by 4. Okay. Coefficient, I've been using that term a lot lately. A coefficient is the number being multiplied to a variable. It sits right next to the variable. So some examples of coefficient are 4 would be the coefficient, a half would be a coefficient, and 8 would be a coefficient. So it's the number or the numerical value that sits right next to the variable. And remember, when a number sits right next to a variable, the math operation that's taking place is multiplication. So it's the number being multiplied to the variable, and it sits right next to it. So 4 sits next to x, half sits next to t, and 8 sits next to c. So the coefficients are 4, half, and 8. Okay? A term is the part of the expression that can be separated from the expression. The best way to remember what terms are is that terms are usually separated by an addition or subtraction sign. So don't let this confuse you. This is not a sign. It's just a way that I was trying to denote that there was an example. So looking right here, we have 2x plus 4y plus 8. So there are actually 3 different terms that are happening. The reason we know there are 3 different terms is this one has a coefficient and the variable x. This one has the coefficient of 4 and the variable y, and this one is just 8. None of them are alike because what this is telling you is there are 2 x's plus 4 y's plus 8 positive values of the number. And so these 3 separate things are known as 3 separate terms because they're separated by that addition sign in the middle, and you cannot combine them because they're not alike. Okay, so that's what a term is. That brings us to the next one, which is like terms. Like terms are terms that are related because they have a trait in common. Boys and girls, this might be one of the most important vocabulary terms that you remember because this is the one that most children get tricked with. And so it's really, really important that you understand what it means when I say terms that are like or like terms. So examples of this, terms that are related because they have a trait in common, is you will have an expression and possibly an equation a lot of the time that have things written like this. And your job is to find all of the like terms. And so one of the things that I do to help me find the like terms is I use different shapes or different colors or both to help me find the terms that are related because they have something in common. So let's look at what I did. For some reason, this says 2x plus 3y plus 7 minus x plus 8y plus 11. And for some reason, I put a heart around this one and around this one. What is the reason that I put a heart around these 2 terms? If you're thinking that it's because they both have an X, you are correct. So those two have a heart around them because they are like terms. The thing that they have in common, or the trait that they have in common, is that they have the X. So 2X plus, or minus, sorry, not plus, because look, that's a minus sign. 2X minus X. So those two belong in the same group, so they both have been circled by an orange heart. Okay? Then I have 3Y with a red rectangle and 8Y with a red rectangle. The reason they both have the red rectangle is because the trait that they have in common are Y's, because what this means is I have 3Y's and I have 8Y's, and this says 3Y's plus 8Y's. Okay? So again, those are like terms because the trait they have in common are the Y's. And then the last one that we see is we have 7 and we have 11, which is a pink circle around both of them. The reason that they have a pink circle around both of them is because we have 7 of something and we have 11 of something. Those somethings could be exactly the same thing. So the trait that they have in common is that they're both numbers with no variables. Okay? And so this can actually be pretty fun as long as you, in your mind, set up a way to help organize it so that you don't get confused. Okay? So, writing and expanding multiplication expressions. Our goal today, we learned how to write expressions using multiplication terms. We just talked about a lot of terms, and hopefully by having these in here, when you're actually asked to write the expression, you can use this guide as a resource to help you figure out what they want you to do. How many different symbols are used to show multiplication? There's actually quite a few. Just as a quick review of that, you have seen me when I have talked about a multiplication problem. I use a dot a lot. Now, the reason why I have to use the dot, so for example, if I have 2 times 3, the reason why I use a dot is because you guys are getting high enough in your math education that one of the ways that you learned how to write this is like this. But as you know from the last lesson, we are now using variables. One of the most popular variables that mathematicians use is the letter x. So the reason why we have substituted using a dot instead of this from the beginning of school is because this could get confusing. This could actually say 2x3. And if it says 2x3, do we really understand the multiplication activity that is happening with this? And the answer is no. So we're doing away with using x as a multiplication symbol when you get into 6th grade because of the use of variables. So instead of writing it like this, we write it like this. 2 dot 3 means 2 times 3. Another way to write 2 times 3 is 2 parentheses 3. Okay? And so there actually are several ways to write multiplication, but the one that we focus on from here on out is a dot for multiplication or using parentheses, because when a number sits outside parentheses, it means that that number needs to be multiplied, but by whatever is inside the parentheses. So that's 2 different ways. We used to do this when we were younger, but now that we're using variables, we need to focus on just these 2. Okay? All right. I think that's all that we have for this lesson. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.